Hello, everyone, and welcome to
Hello.
pilot episode of the Forge podcast.
Forge podcast. The only podcast where we don't talk about how we're supposed to start this.
Do you want me to cut it?
No. We'll run with it.
We'll run with it?
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
run with it.
So today we have James, the head of Esports at Miami, correct?
The assistant director of Esports.
Assistant director,
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's Jen that's the actual... No?
So I believe Jen's job title is head coach of varsity. So her full-time job is to look specifically at the varsity program-related stuff. I'm the assistant director of esports in that half of my job is through the Department of Emerging Tech, Business and Design, which runs the varsity esports program. And then half of my job is through recreation, where we help oversee the spaces in the Armstrong Student Center. So like the lounge, the arena, and all that.
Oh.
I would say the academic directors, and like, it's complicated because like, the director needs to be involved in the day-to-day. I would say as far as like the people who are involved in the day-to-day, it's me and Jen. But you know, we get great help from the faculty, from Dr. Phil Alexander and Dr. Glenn Platt, that are sort of the co-directors at the top level. And then we get really good advice from Dr. Chad Reynolds, who I believe is the assistant dean of CCA, the College of Creative Arts. And he was originally one of the performance coaches for the esports program when it was founded. So that's loosely how it's structured.
All right. Well, appreciate that overview because I did not know that beforehand.
I mean, we should probably introduce ourselves too.
So hi, I'm Tyler. I'm a freshman here at Miami. My screen name, I guess, is Dark. So if you ever see me casting for any of the Valorant stuff, that is me, in fact.
I'm Trae. I'm also a freshman. I also do kind of casting stuff, hopefully media production soon. Username's Linkling if you see me cast at some point. And yeah, I'm on the club Valorant team, which the team should be announced today, so that's pretty exciting.
Nice.
Woo! That's my duo.
Yay.
Those tryouts were pretty fun to watch. I only got to watch one of the games the day that you were trying out.
Yeah, I think you watched the game I wasn't in though, but
Oh.
it was still entertaining.
Yeah.
Well, the day that the Wi-Fi went out, that first game he was in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about the Wi-Fi. If you
Yeah,
want.
do we just want to go on ahead and start with the Wi-Fi issues? Because I feel like that's been plaguing Miami for 3 weeks at this point or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, so what I know on my side is that at some point over the summer, IT went and updated some of the network adapters on campus, or like tried to upgrade the network nodes or something. I'm not an IT specialist. My degree is in my undergrad degree is in philosophy. My graduate degree, I have a master's in education. I'm not I'm not an IT professional. But my understanding is that they tried to upgrade the network, and it has resulted in complications because anytime you try to do something good, complications arise.
Of course.
This is the first year that I've experienced here. I mean, I've been here for 4 years in some capacity, and this is the first time that I've seen network issues like this.
Really?
Yeah. So I know that I'm sure that they've gotten enough complaints because it's been like during 8 p.m. peak time during the weekday.
Yeah.
So people who are trying to do homework, people who are trying to watch Netflix, people who want to go home, people who want to play video games. It's been a struggle.
Which, for context, real quick, because we didn't actually explain it.
what the issue was.
So for the past 2 weeks, I believe 2 weeks ago it was on a Wednesday for the Rocket League, first Rocket League match, I believe, of the season, correct?
Yeah.
Network errors hit, and I'm pretty sure all the players hit somewhere around 2K plus ping.
Yeah, all across campus, everyone.
All across campus, all
2
the
seconds of
network
ping.
basically shut down. And then the very next week on Tuesday, which was going to be my first time casting for Valorant, we experienced the exact same network issues where we were even seeing pings upwards to 4K somehow. So they got worse somehow over 1 week, which is genuinely impressive. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. The biggest bummer is that both of those matches were supposed to be against Akron. So now, like, I feel like Akron might think that we're trying to duck them, but
Yeah.
I swear we are not.
Or counterpoint, Akron's DDoSing us because they know we'll win too hard.
We don't want to
Yeah.
make any accusations.
I'm sorry, we love you, Akron. I have a friend who goes there. I think I don't know.
I mean, I think Akron has always been a very reliable rivalry as far as collegiate esports has gone for us. You know, we're both members of Esports Collegiate, or the ESC, which is sort of the MAC conference of esports. And when Akron got into esports, they really did do it with a splash. They brought in some of the top Rocket League talent in the country. Their Valorant team has always been very solid, and like they got a good, strong program over there. And you know, we pride ourselves here as like, oh, we were the first Division I varsity esports program, and you know, we have worked to get the resources, like to get as many resources as we can. And I think we are very fortunate that we've got like 3 separate esports spaces on campus that students can use. You know, one of them being varsity centric, another one being event centric / varsity, because that's where we do the broadcasted matches, and then the public one. So, you know, I do feel very fortunate that, and also they gave me a job. So I'm very, very appreciative of that. You know, I don't think too many universities are able to actually put 2 full-time people on their esports programs. Mm-hmm. So much of this space in collegiate is driven by student passion, by student volunteers, by people who want this thing to succeed. And, you know, I feel very lucky to be where I'm at right now. Just as far as where the industry is. But I think, you know, collegiate is growing to some extent. I think as long as people in collegiate continue to build sustainably, like I think we're chilling, because I guess one of your other topics, I believe, was to talk about the state of like tier 1 esports and esports in the United States.
Currently, but from at least how you were describing it to me earlier, it seems like college esports, while a little chaotic in terms of the structuring, seems to be going at a general rate that seems very like lateral almost, to where it kind of stacks on top of each other in a way that kind of makes sense over time, to where it's not like this exponential growth where once the first thing hits, there's 10 more that just popped up behind it, basically.
Right. I mean, so the metaphor that I always got is that, you know, esports in general has always been a very fast-moving industry. You know, it's attached to venture capital. It has been attached to venture capital. It has been attached to crypto. It has been attached to all this stuff. And so it has basically been moved by the whims of the executives in that space, you know, from orgs like TSM, EG, whatever. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the way universities generally work is that they're like cruise ships. You know, it takes a long time for a university to really buy into something. Mm-hmm. And once it gets moving in a direction, it becomes very hard for that momentum to stop. And so, you know, I think in that regard, there are still spaces in which the smaller universities have an advantage over larger Division I or Research I institutions because they have more flexibility as far as their branding guidelines go, as far as their ability to offer, you know, large sums of scholarship money, et cetera. You know, they get full institutional buy-in because they're looking for things that will set them apart. Mm-hmm. Whereas, you know, no matter what, Miami University is a great brand. Like, mm-hmm. It is a known brand, and like what we do on the esports side contributes to that. And you know, they're very happy that we are here. But you know, we aren't like Maryville. They were able to build out an athletics department based off of the success of their esports program.
Oh, wow. That's really impressive, actually.
That's like backwards way to go about it.
Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting how these programs sort of change depending on, like, where they're situated. Mm-hmm. And, like, I think, you know, I could go into program history a little bit if we want to go that way. I don't know. I'm done to talk.
Why not? I mean, you know, we don't... Yeah. We had some ideas, but, you know, really we're just going to see where the wind takes us here.
Fair enough. Sorry. So, you know, the program was started in 2017. I wasn't here yet. You know, if we do the quick mental math, I said I've been here for 4 years. 2017 is a bit further back than that. That it was originally an Overwatch and a League of Legends club was sort of what esports was here at Miami. And eventually, things shifted. Two students at the time, Stelany and Matt Samuelson, made a really, really strong case to the folks over at Emerging Tech, which I believe may have been Ames at the time, which is like Armstrong Institute of Media Studies. Things change.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But they made this really strong case that collegiate esports was picking up, especially at these smaller institutions, the smaller Christian schools, the smaller private institutions, and that Miami needed to be on the forefront of this stuff. And so I think as far as timing goes, we were the first Division I school to have a varsity program. And we were donated the space in King Library. I think that first year we were in Overwatch, League of Legends. I think we did Smash, Melee.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think Ultimate came out in 2019, 2018?
2018.
Yeah. So it was close. I think we were also in CS:GO. We picked up R6 for a little bit, and then we ended up putting it back down because a few reasons, but also there's a lot going on in collegiate esports.
Yeah.
We're spread thin enough as it is.
And
Yeah.
I also feel like I must assume that R6, at least collegiate-wise, is not massive in terms of, just because of a lot of the other esports that are out there that are much larger in terms of funding, at least currently.
Yeah, as far as funding and competition, R6 struggles a little bit. I think the main competition that they still have in the collegiate scene is CEA, which I think also does Valorant, and CEA does fantastic work.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't know, small shout out to Brian Williams, Soup. He is, I think, now the program director of esports up at Bluffton University. That he was an all-star Rainbow Six collegiate player while he was here at Miami.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. So he really kept that team afloat for a bit, and then COVID hit, and it
Obviously,
stuff gets complicated. But great guy. I wish him best of luck. That's a shout out. But yeah, just the not there being enough competitions, and we could talk a little bit about the Red Blood games or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's always been a little bit of just a marketing issue.
A little bit. I think some of the standby has been
I feel like over time it's the stigma's kind of going away to a certain extent. However, it's we saw it kind of start with Mortal Kombat all the way back.
Yeah.
God knows how long ago.
Yeah.
And, over time as games have gotten more realistic, we've seen kind of stronger pushback, and then it kind of lessened over time as people kind of realized, and then, this new thing comes out that looks even more realistic than the old realistic thing, and then that kind of, so over time it's just this kind of ebb and flow of, whatever politicians think they.
Right. It's, research has shown that, there's not really a link between, depictions of violence and actual violence, as far as, video games go. I think the research is in our favor on that end. I think that, from a brand perspective, though, especially with, issues that campuses have had with actual violence over the last, 10, 15 years, universities want to be very careful about the ways in which they associate themselves with depictions of violence. And I get that.
It makes a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about something like Rainbow Six Siege, because if you've ever looked at any of the cinematics for that game, there is a certain one where a certain things happens on a certain college campus that we will not say by name. However,
that's not good.
It's definitely not something that looks good for branding.
Yeah. Rainbow Six, Call of Duty to some extent, and Counter-Strike, it isn't necessarily. I mean, I'm not saying that this is our administration brickwalling this stuff.
Yeah.
It is. All of those games are lower in the list of supported games by collegiate programs across the country.
Which makes sense from a logistical / branding standpoint, due to what they are.
Yeah,
you know.
And
it also makes sense as to why Valorant has had such a big boom in response to that in a way, because it's more so like.
Yeah, it's cartoonier in certain ways.
I did notice all the games we won, like at the varsity level, all like have a cartoony-ish aspect to them, which I guess kind of makes sense. But
yeah. I mean, so I don't think aesthetically it was like a choice, you know. I mean, and we're not running like a Fall Guys team.
I would join that team.
Yeah, yes, sir. But it is something that is a little bit easier for, I think, administrators to get their heads around if things look more like Saturday morning cartoons. I think that's fine. And I mean, all of the games that we do play at the varsity level, I think, you know, both have very strong sort of competitive scenes around them at the collegiate level. And we've got very passionate communities about them here on campus. So, you know, I'm very appreciative of the student base that we've got. And you know, I think one of the reasons why like collegiate esports is so appealing to, I mean, especially the smaller Christian universities generally, is that like it's something to do in the evening that isn't like drinking. And not to say that like you know, students at Miami aren't going out and partying or whatever, because we know where we are.
Brick.
But it's still, it's an alternative to sort of it's an alternate community to some of the like the frat life sort of stuff here. Not to say that it's exclusive, because we've got a lot of great frat members in there, and no disrespect to frat culture. It's just, it's an alternate source of community here that I don't think that the university had as much of 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
You know, my personal story with Miami, to some extent, I think, so I started my undergrad career in like 2010, which, dating myself here. And I started over at Loyola Chicago, which honestly, phenomenal school. They always do great in March Madness, or to some extent. It was really cool living in downtown Chicago, having a transit pass, being able to ride the train wherever, see concerts. But I ended up having to leave because it was getting too expensive over there. My community also had to leave because it was getting too expensive out there. So there wasn't, despite the strength of the academics, there weren't as many reasons for me to stick around. And colleges that I looked at after that, because I did want to finish my degree, Miami was on the list. And in 2012, 2011, whatever that was, I talked to some people from my high school that ended up coming down here, and they were telling me to not.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, you're going to get eaten alive out here because it is all frat stuff. It is all...
That's so interesting to me, because I have seen a good amount of frat stuff, you know, at least, especially with like Mega Fair, where like an entire quarter of a quad was dedicated to just frats and stuff. But
yeah,
I've also seen so much more in terms of just general people trying to do things for other people and it not be relegated to one group.
Yeah, and I think Miami has done a phenomenal job over the last 5 or 6 years of changing some of that up. And maybe it wasn't as bad as my peers made it out to be, you know, 10 plus years ago. But it was still enough of a warning that I ended up actually going to Bowling Green, where I graduated. And, you know, I'm not sure that I would, like, donate to BG, but, like, I had a good enough time, you know.
That's interesting, because I have like multiple extended family members who went here, like around that same. Some of them came around the same time, and they didn't warn me of like any of that. So I don't know.
Okay, maybe it was just my peer network was trolling me a little bit.
Yeah, or maybe they were like, oh yeah, you should really get into this, or not actually, just trolling me a little bit.
Maybe, I don't know.
I just find that really interesting, at least in all the groups that I've kind of, you know, been or have looked into / been a part of so far in my 4-week stint on campus so far. While yes, it's been kind of relegated to League of Geeks, which great organizations, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Always a solid group to be around. I genuinely haven't met a single person that I would say I dislike that man or that person just in general.
Right.
I may not know them yet or have talked to them much, but it's never been something where I'm like, I hate you, please leave.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten anything along those lines from anyone here, and it's been just such a breath of fresh air for me, especially coming from high school, where I feel like you can talk to someone and kind of get like that feeling that like, oh, this person isn't like a great thing to be around, or just things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the students that we've got here on campus are, very motivated students in general. I think a lot of sort of mindsets are aligned in that way, which helps out with diffusing some of that tension. I think, I am a huge advocate for public education and, in the K through 12 space, but I will also say, when you're in K through 12 and when you're in high school, there are a good number of people there that like don't want to be there. It's just not what they're interested in, or their interests aren't all aligned. Their interests are all over the place, and it is the goal of public K through 12 to like figure out how to deal with all of that. And generally, in my view, the more resources they have, the easier it is to resolve that tension. But that may not be the view of the State House or whatever, et cetera. But who knows? But so I don't know. It is. I think the community here at Miami is very good in that general sense. And once again, a huge shout out to the League of Geeks. I know JS, the person who's the staff member who's sort of in charge of all of that stuff, has done a phenomenal job of advocating for stuff outside of the frat or the party system, and getting people's niche interests engaged, whether it's fighting games, chess, debate club, whatever. Like JS has done a great job with all of that. So all the credit in the world to them, to him, and all the credit in the world to the students that are working to make that a successful organization.
Yeah, like pretty much everything I've done on campus outside of like classes has been either with people from the Smash Club or Meeples, and they've all been great people to talk to and hang out with. And speaking of the Smash Club, I just went to one of the meetings, and then I heard they're all going to this big tournament called Riptide, which we'll talk about someone who went there next week. But I just played like 2 sets of Melee with a guy, and he's like, you know what, I'll give you a ride to Riptide. So he just drove me 4 hours up to Sandusky, Ohio, after just meeting me at that club, which is a really cool experience.
Nice.
Which I still remember the day that he came back from that meeting, because he was like, yeah, I probably won't go to Riptide. I probably won't go to Riptide. I probably won't meet anyone who really wants to take me or anything like that. So I'll probably just be here over the weekend. And then I get back to the dorm, because I think I was at like the Fighters Guild meeting or something like that, right? I get back to the dorm. He shows up, and I was like, hey, so did you find anyone to go to Riptide with or anything? And he was like, yeah, some guy that I played a few sets with was like, hey, you want to go to Riptide? And I was like, sure. So as we were talking, he was pulling up like the Riptide stuff to get like the overnight pass, and which on top of that, they opened up the water park for all attendees for the night, right? Didn't it start at like 10?
Night. Yes, 10 to midnight. It was crazy. We'll talk about that more next week. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I do wish that I'd been able to make it out to Riptide myself, but also I believe that was the first weekend of Overwatch Collegiate Homecoming. And I guess speaking of other tech issues on campus, currently we are having issues with swipe access in our varsity space in the library. So anytime a varsity player needs to get into practice or compete downstairs, we are in the library.
You have to show up,
now.
Basically?
I have to show up, yeah. So either me or Jen has to be there in person. And so Jen made the trip up to Sandusky for Riptide. I stayed home. I opened a door on Saturday professionally. And then I spent 12 hours writing rubrics for the Valorant tryouts for varsity. So I had a great weekend.
Which I'm glad that we had the Valorant roster get figured out before the first game, because I remember that was a little issue that was going on.
I mean, I think, we did even better. I mean, as tight as it was this year, I mean, so Miami starts about a week later than every other. I mean, there are a couple of colleges that are in the same boat. I think Michigan State has the similar issue. Ohio University has a similar issue. But there are a lot of universities that start a week before we do.
Oh, okay.
And so they have another week of runway. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
So we had to run tryouts for Overwatch, Valorant, and League of Legends basically as soon as possible, which meant we weren't able to get the word out as much as we'd wanted to. And it meant that Jen and I were very, very pressed to make sure that all of the documentation got done, that all of the teams were properly chosen. And once again, I'll still say, I think we had about 48 hours this time between roster announcement internally and the game starting, whereas last year, I believe we had about 24 hours.
Wow. I mean, for the time crunch, the team that was selected this year so far has, been looking very good. And, as a freshman, I have a lot of confidence in just that initial stint to see what happens next. Especially, just talking to some of the players and hearing like their outlook. Because I remember after that first match against Eastern Michigan, Comfy and I believe
Sheeb probably.
Sheeb, I think it was Sheeb and Comfy came up. Had the chance to talk to them about some of how they were feeling about the season, and they definitely sounded confident, and they seem to enjoy the team composition in terms of the players and how everyone was kind of working together. I still find the fact they had a Dumpty playing Chamber when a Dumpty doesn't play op ever funny because
he's gonna learn.
Well, they straight up went, it would have been really nice if a Dumpty had told us before picking Chamber that he doesn't play op. And
it's something with new players. The only true new member on that roster is a Doomty. He is a freshman, phenomenal mindset, great guy, really good skill set. But one of the things, one thing that we were seeing, I don't know how much to get into it. It was like during tryouts, he was over pushing a little bit on Duelist and not communicating necessarily when he was pushing. And so an idea came about to try to reel him in a little bit for at least a bit and play him on the Sentinel role where you have to play for your life, where you have to be playing back and playing for yourself a little bit. And I think as a lurker and as a Sentinel player, he does a phenomenal job of creating space for himself. He's got a lot of faith in himself, and it's been paying off as far as his game style goes. But there's also an adjustment period there. We're asking him to make a lot of big changes. Yeah.
What as someone who plays a combination of mainly Sentinel controller, next to my Sky duo, who has stopped playing Sky because he wants to play Omen.
Okay, well, I pulled my Valorant tracker. I see my win rate of Sky is like 40%. My win rate is almost 80%. Like, you gotta make some changes.
But as someone who really enjoys playing Sentinel a lot, I don't really have the duelist mindset, at least when I play, because, when you're a duelist, your entire idea is creating space. And, I play agents like Cypher mainly. That's been the one I've been playing a lot recently, where I just kind of sit on site and just sit on cam and just wait. However, just simply from watching like top end level Sentinel plays, they'll play that Killjoy, and then if they're like, hey, no one's here, they'll just creep into main and just see what happens. And, it's just one of those things where by taking that kind of duelist mindset of making space and, basically getting info so your team can rotate around it properly, it just increases the effectiveness of your game plan and the entire team as a whole so much. Yeah. And being able to watch that at least just reassures like my faith in the team as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, once again, so this last weekend, it was a big weekend of competitions. I don't think we necessarily broadcast that as effectively as we needed to the general public because there's so much going on. Yeah. But on Saturday, Valorant entered into Red Bull Campus Clutch, and also So Unified is a esports organization in the Midwest that puts on their main specialty is putting on live events, and they've got a collegiate esports conference called the Midwest Esports Conference that we have joined for this year, where they do 2 LANs a semester. In the fall, the games are Smash Bros. Ultimate and Valorant. In the spring, they do Rocket League and League of Legends. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to enter our League of Legends team into their division for that because their division is a CLOL conference, which is the first-party Riot conference, whereas ESC is also a CLOL conference, and ESC, because it is a MAC-affiliated thing, is our priority.
And obviously, it can't be entered into more than one Riot affiliated.
Right.
Okay.
But anyway, this last weekend was the fall clash for the Midwest Esports Conference, where we played round-robin tournaments for both Smash Bros. And Valorant. The event itself was held in Des Moines, and unfortunately for budgetary reasons and for health and safety reasons, we were not able to make the 9-hour drive out there.
For either team, correct?
For either team, correct.
And is that the one LAN that was happening this semester, or?
They're doing another LAN in Northwest Indiana, I think November 11th.
Okay.
That we are going to do everything in our power to get to. It's a more manageable drive, for sure.
Because I'm assuming, especially compared to Des Moines, which was not
that.
broadcasted quite as effectively from what I was kind of hearing, at least from Smash Team, where they were very surprised to all of a sudden be told that they have to show up to Des Moines after being at Riptide all weekend.
Right. Yeah.
But
no, I know some of the messaging could have been a little bit better on our end too, I think. But I don't know. So we ended up playing those matches on Wi-Fi for Smash, and then we played them remotely for Valorant. And I'm very appreciative that they did allow us to do that. And the way our Valorant roster is currently set up, we've got a Miami Team Red and a Miami Team White. Coming out of tryouts, everybody's like, okay, which one is the A team, which one is the B team? And I was like, I don't want to think of it that way. And I know that that's not, I don't know, maybe I'm the obstinate one in that. But it's, on Team White, we've got 2 returning long-serving varsity members in Phantom and Ataraxy. Ataraxy, I think this is his 4th year of competition with the program.
Wow.
Phantom, who is the other one, took a year off his junior year to focus on other stuff, but he played on the rosters that we had back when, I would say when Valorant came out, Miami was very well positioned to be a top 10 program as far as competitive results go in Valorant. We had 2 Radiant players on the team in Psycho, Rob, and Ponder, Jack. And I think Rob, Psycho ended up, I hope he graduated. I hope he's doing great. He's a great guy. And he ended up, having to leave the team to graduate and to work on academic stuff. And then Ponder ended up going to Mizzou, where their squad is doing very, very well.
Yeah.
The move makes a lot of sense. He was able to get more scholarship money over there. He's now, he has a lot of familial relationships. He's from that area. And, I think he's now married. And, his wife lives there. There's so many ways that makes sense. And being able to get those resources. I am very happy with the situation that he was able to find for himself over there. But, we did have 2 Radiant players, and then I think the rest of that team was Ataraxy, Phantom. Originally, it was Night Wolverine, who I didn't really know that well, but from what I know, he's a very good guy. And then eventually Tucker showed up in that spot, and Tucker is legitimately one of the best lurkers that I've ever seen at the collegiate level.
Really?
But yeah, and he played some in last fall's ESC, if you can find any VODs of that. But last fall was a little bit tough because it was his last semester before graduation, and he was also basically working full-time as a vet tech.
Oh, wow.
So he would show up 2 games about 5 minutes before they started.
I mean,
not warmed up at all because he just got off his shift. and he would still manage to like top frag games.
That's still really
Wow.
impressive. Like, that's super impressive.
really impressive.
And
yeah.
I'm sure, at least from your point of view, it must be like really, really cool and also like really suck at the exact same time by getting to see like your players do such cool things and then show up to games 5 minutes before and you'd be like stressing, are they going to show up? What's going to happen? Are we going to be able to play this match?
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's why you have subs.
Theoretically, yeah. It's it is tough from an organizational standpoint. I mean, nothing that we do here is possible without student passion and without student engagement on this stuff. And I think when students step into the varsity role, generally the ones that are able to stay in the varsity role are the ones that are very passionate about this, that are willing to like go a step beyond to show up for everything. And like I think, once again, I'm very happy with the amount of resources that we've managed to get in the time span that we've had here, but we could always be doing more to support the students. And it's not necessarily all on like Jen and I to be doing all that stuff, but like as an organization. But I don't know, organizationally as a university, could always do more to support our students. And because one of my goals is to make sure that esports here on campus, that we are as good of community members as possible, not just reaching out to like other collegiate esports programs or not just in the esports scene, but like to be more of a presence on campus in general. And I know that's been tough going because when you talk about esports with people, there are so many different levels of understanding that conversation can happen on.
There's different levels of understanding, and then coming with that understanding is a lot of stigma.
Yeah.
Because when a lot of people who aren't necessarily like into video games in the first place, when they hear the words, esports, they're probably like, oh, so there's like those really dedicated people that kind of don't talk to other people and live in their basement all day.
Right.
Which is quite the opposite when you actually get the chance to talk to and meet some of these people who, while they are incredibly passionate about the game that they play, they're also some of the nicest, most caring people that you can meet. Like, for example, like Ferb.
Oh, yeah.
Ferb, who is, one of our top Smash players here, one of the top, I think it's the number 2 ICs in the world, right? Just simply absolutely cracked at the game he plays. However, he will always be there if you need help, just simply from talking on Discord with him, talking with him in person. I've been able to ask him so many questions about Miami as a whole and gotten really concrete answers that have helped me so much in my understanding of how things work here. And it's just seeing someone like that being at like the head of an organization, and also being as good as he is at what he does, in terms of Smash and stuff. I'm sure that, it really brings you a lot of joy to kind of see that, see that you're helping these kids, or I can't say kids. He's older than me.
They're older than me,
Yeah.
But to see, people like that kind of come out from what you and Jen have kind of worked to help build here and, kind of encourage for us as students to kind of pursue.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's so much good, there's a lot of weeks where it's very, very tough. But there's working with the students is really what makes the job worth it. So, I'm very lucky, I think, to have the students that we've got and to have this community here. So I am very appreciative and, willing to work 19, 18 hours in the library over the weekend and then come back at 9 a.m. the next day. But yeah.
Which we do really appreciate you being here right now. We understand that it's a time commitment and stuff for you and that you have a lot of other stuff going on, especially just because I can only imagine what you have on your plate right now, and I'm not sure if I would want to have to deal with all of it myself. However, we do really appreciate you coming out here, especially for the first episode, just kind of see how you look at all of it, seeing as you have the overview of everything and, kind of give us a different perspective, at least from the administrative point of view, where you can kind of be like, hey, so here's all these leagues that we're doing. Here's kind of the requirements and time it takes to do it, and here's why you should be interested, especially, which is very different from a player who's just like, I want to be as good as I can and
right.
steamroll everyone else.
Yeah. And I mean, there are a lot of leagues to pay attention to. There are a lot of things to pay attention to. I mean, I think one of the strengths and one of the weaknesses of I think esports in general is that from a player's perspective, like, it's a concrete skill that you can build over time. You can watch yourself grow at it. You can, feel improvement. And like that feeling is one of the best things a human being can feel, I think. And I don't know. But, in that respect, a lot of people go into, thinking about esports broadly simply as like, I don't know. It's also like a abstract art in this way. It's like, I can do that. My kid can do that, whatever. So we don't get as many people that are interested so much in the infrastructure work as much as they are in I want to go and play this game. And like, I think esports as a whole will probably always be safe-ish as it probably won't exist exactly in the way that it exists right now with the tier 1 organizations and some of the majors and stuff. But it'll always exist in some way because people are always going to want to play video games. People are always going to want to get better at video games. And they're always going to want to see people who are really phenomenal at this stuff do this. So it's just figuring out a way to really play on, those last two parts and sort of blend them together. That is the content that, broadcasts are trying to, like our broadcasts are trying to play off. Everybody's broadcasts are trying to play off. They're showcasing their student skill, and they're educational in some extent for broader audiences. But we're sorry.
Sorry. I don't interrupt you. I was just say one part about following esports that's really interesting to me is like, it's good to see the skill, but I also like following like the storyline and the personalities of the people that are playing and casting, just seeing that sort of side of just actually people and how they interact with each other. And
that is true. Yeah. I mean, my favorite esports casters back in the day are Tasteless and Artosis. I don't know. Those names are probably...
I've heard Artosis before. What was it that they casted again?
StarCraft.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was it.
In the day. Yeah. Back before League of Legends.
I do remember. I do remember hearing some stuff about Artosis because I've spread my like area very, very wide in terms of what I've watched / listened to over time. Not that I really know much about StarCraft. I couldn't tell you anything about it, but I've heard stuff from Dota. I've heard stuff from StarCraft. I've heard stuff from all over the place. Just listening and hearing, like, the style, I guess.
Yeah, but it's just like, I guess without it's a weird thing because like without the geographical location attached to a team, it's harder to pull in local communities in the way that like traditional sports has. But also whenever esports, I think, has tried to do the geographical location thing, it hasn't clicked with me. I don't know about you guys.
For example, like the CDL or OWL, where I'm from Atlanta. We had a team there, Atlanta FaZe, at least for CDL. I think it was Atlanta Reign for Overwatch League, which is like... and I wasn't a huge Overwatch person at the time, but I was a Call of Duty person. So I got into at least the Atlanta FaZe thing. And the thing is, when I was watching everything, all of the arenas were like empty, because there just wasn't that like regional demographic, because esports isn't something that you necessarily align yourself with an area. Yeah. Like, for example, my favorite Valorant team is all the way in South Korea.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
And my second favorite one is in Europe.
Yeah.
I don't have like a region I support. I have a team I support that's in a region that is completely opposite to me. And I'm sure that you're probably somewhat similar because you said you used to follow StarCraft a lot.
Yeah. And the best was in Korea, and it's still in Korea. But I mean, on the flip side, to speak, Kabunga, the Overwatch team captain, who I think was going to be here today but wasn't able to make it. He's a big Overwatch guy, of course. He's the captain of the Overwatch team. Great player. I know that he was very much he's from the DC area, and he was a huge Washington Justice fan.
Yeah.
And so like having that local thing for him, I think was very, very important. And it's very funny that, not even funny, like it's serendipitous that one of our players is Riley Fosix-Taylor, who was a OWL pro on the Washington Justice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he reached out to us and was like, "Hey, can I do my degree here?" And we figured
That's
out a way
really
to make it work.
impressive.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So this year, Riley is a coach on the team still, and like Jude has this opportunity to like work with somebody that like
He looked
was
up
important.
to.
Yeah, he looked up to and was very important in his community.
I would love to talk to him at some point just to like see what it was like as a pro player for a bit, and it's just seeing that side of stuff is really interesting to me, and I don't know, I just really appreciate being able to see so many different perspectives around esports, especially now that we're kind of focusing on the collegiate level at least, obviously everything kind of leads to that, but I'm really excited to see what kind of we can take from it over time and learn some more stuff.
Yeah. If you're listening to this, we'd love to have you on.
But I think that we're getting
to
the end of our time
close
here.
To time. James, is there anything you'd like to, any events that are coming up you'd like to shout out? This will come out like about a week from now.
Yeah.
But anything that we should look out for?
So I mean, we'll hopefully have played the Western Michigan ESC match. Hopefully have played some more Rocket League if there are no more Wi-Fi issues. But I would say generally, if you would like to see Miami University esports content, our broadcasts tend to go live Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. for Valorant, Wednesday nights at 8 and 9 p.m. for Rocket League. Those tend to be double headers. Otherwise, I believe that the Midwest Esports Conference content for Smash Bros. And Valorant should be broadcast on Saturday afternoons, I think, on the unified Twitch. And otherwise, we've got an intramural Valorant league that I need to get set up this week. It's going to be open to all ranks. If you're a Miami student and you're interested in playing some semi-organized Valorant, I think so the way we do it is people enter as individuals, and then we sort the teams based by rank in some respects. So like every team's going to have like an Immortal Ascendant player. Every team's going to have like silver, bronze
2.
Yay! So it's a way to introduce the community to more of itself and like get people playing outside of their rank stratum a little bit. But it's also it's been a lot of fun event. It's been a very fun event the last 2 times that we've managed to run it, and looking forward to do it again. I think it's going to be $5 to enter per person because we want to be able to pay for the winners get a T-shirt, which is a fun way to win an intramural champion T-shirt without playing pickleball or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Well,
look out for that.
all right.
Is there anything you'd like to shout out, Tyler? How people can find you?
That's my duo. But nothing in particular. Thank you guys for joining us today. Did you have anything that you wanted to add on?
I don't know, James, is there anywhere people can find you if they want to learn more about the program?
Yeah, I mean, if people want to reach out to me, my Twitter is, I think, reach42_MUOH. If you want to, I don't know how Twitter does open DMs anymore. I didn't pay for premium, so maybe my DMs aren't open anymore, but that's one place to reach me at. Otherwise, if you join the varsity, any of the esports discords here at Miami, you'll be able to find me pretty quickly. I'm reach42 in there. I've got the Sheeb wearing the hard hat avatar, so I'm always open to answering questions. So,
all right. Well, we appreciate you coming on today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for joining us to listen.
It's a little bit of a shorter one this week, but it's the first episode. It's gonna be a little scuffed, but we appreciate you listening, and see you next week.
All right. See you guys later.